Les défis environnementaux et socio-économiques de plus en plus pressants nous confrontent aux limites de l'économie intensive en carbone qui prévaut aujourd'hui, celle de la deuxième révolution industrielle.
Second industrial revolution, the present economic system is questioned with pesticides, heating, building materials, pharmaceuticals are all products that depend on fossil products. So this is the end of carbon and transition to a sustainable economy. Third industrial revolution is the conjunction of three technologies. New technologies for communication with digital era, new sources of energy, and new transportation and logistics. This is connected on a platform, Internet of the Object. Third industrial revolution is interconnected plus energy resources. More than 15 billion sensors do exist and lead us to intelligence. Smart farming, vehicles, supermarkets, hospitals, or smart houses. This changes our environment and makes it possible for every one of us to be connected. Music is exchanged on the web. This is also true for transportation, holiday houses, toys, books. Everybody can become a producer and a consumer. This is all extended to more and more sectors. These exchange networks lead to a cooperative economy that is sustainable and defines today's economy. In that context, there are new actors. Traditional companies are changing and adjust their strategy with new innovative systems. Enterprises and players in civil society interact within a new economic system. Luxembourg is a new player in that change to prepare the Grand Duchy to that new world. It's necessary to have smart infrastructures with new economic developments such as green energy, storing batteries, space technologies, new logistics, development of eco-technologies, developments in health to satisfy new modes of consumption in a sustainable growth. Luxembourg is the first to be involved in the third industrial revolution. This means that to build tomorrow's economy, all the forces in the country are required. Don't forget to be a player. Well, this film is coming from Luxembourg. Just to tell you that the third revolution developed in the Laboratoire des Hauts-de-France has extended the borders, and this is not finished yet. So welcome to all of you. This is the second day. I hope you are following what we are doing. So let us move. Guy Vasseur, welcome to introduce this session. It's a theme that comes back every year, the Christmas, the 11th of November, etc. We are now such a marronnier. That's an event that comes back every year. Well, 4 years or 5 years ago, you came here. A marronnier, as you say, is the same thing every year. It's back to school. We are sort of a marronnier because we are dealing with the same topic every year, but the year 2017 will not be the same as 2016. It is in 2012, if I remember well, and I think I do, that that within the World Forum we decided to start a pilot operation in this region of Hauts-de-France, at the time Nord-Pas-de-Calais, because we wanted our region to become a pioneer in the third industrial revolution. We worked with the teams of Jeremy Rifkin, the American who was following that concept, and also with all the teams in the region and some companies that are here in this room that have been part of the construction of that master plan for the third revolution. This was made public at the World Forum in 2013, and since the end of 2013, 2014, we have become more operational by implementing financing tools, building real industrial systems within the framework of territorial experiences with towns that have also launched themselves in that third industrial revolution to make smart cities or such things. And since 2014, let us say 15, 16, this is the fourth year, we have piled up projects year after year, and maybe there will be other announcements that will be made. Well, that's a good idea. So the success of a territorial progress is first include all the players on the territory, enterprises, and also organizations. It's fundamental. That is to say that you have to have a vision. Sometimes that's what is missing in what is being said on the economy. People are talking about short term. You have to go further to have a sort of a vision. And then you have to bring people around the table. This is key. If you put the economic world on the one side, political side on the other side, and then others, academic worlds, research workers, and academics, we won't make it. The key of success in this region was that in a region where we all know one another, it doesn't mean that we love one another, but we know exactly what we can do. So as from the start, we had that sort of sacred union, that, and so people have decided to do something. You know that in France, we're not too much keen on that. Very often we have people, well, here we have our friend coming from Germany. In Germany, you have a unity. In France, it's always one against the other. So we launched that initiative with a majority which was a left-wing majority. Then it was a center-right. So it's fundamental. The economic world, which is not always in agreement, has also come around the table. For academics, it was not easy, but they all came around the table. And the miracle was that for 4 years now, it has worked. So the region is quite relevant, and when you go further, you see that it's multi-territorial. Now you have things that are spreading out. Yesterday, you have talked about the right to experiment. Now, are you today experimenting something in the third industrial revolution? Well, I would like. Well, if we do not experiment, we have a handicap. If we have new processes, new technologies, regulation doesn't exist yet. So regulation applies to what we know. And when we want to go further, you have no test. So that's why it's necessary to test. In some cities, there are things that are emerging. In a city like Fourmi, Arras, Béthune, Dunkirk, or others, or even here, there are lots of initiatives. The obstacles which we have met are very often regulatory. So we will claim the right to experiment and to test. Everybody talks about it, and people say you should have the possibility to experiment, you should have the right to make mistakes. But as soon as we try to make it, we have difficulties. We said that tomorrow we will put forward a final recommendation to say this is what is needed for a responsible economy, but the right to test is certainly important. We don't ask very much, just let us do things. We don't want to change the labor code or the urbanism or city planning codes, but there are still some obstacles. We can do better. But at the same time, when we look at the regulations, we see the circular economy package, which is being finalized in Brussels. Here we have the energy transition, which is in volume 4 with specific targets. Now, can we hope that what is being done as an experiment here can be applied elsewhere in our country and elsewhere? Well, I wouldn't say that we can teach the others, even though we can claim that this or that country or region has been inspired by us. I know that what we are doing here is looked at with much attention. Some progress has been done. You talked about circular economy. It is true that it's moving forward. There are other fields in which we are able to progress. But what is missing is maybe a right to test on a general basis. But we know that talking about ourselves, we get an audience on the third industrial revolution. We have been quoted some time ago when they said that we are a very good example. So for once that we are an example on positive things, we are happy. You often receive delegations. We've seen the example of Luxembourg that launched its program. And then you have Rotterdam. Rotterdam, very interesting. They came 3 years ago, and this is the film of it.
Increasingly vulnerable as the digital and circular economy cut through the existing sectors like energy, chemistry, food, health, logistics, and manufacturing. And perhaps most importantly, an overall strategy for the region has been lacking to address the fundamental questions how we should earn our money and what kind of skills are needed in the next economy. In order to do this, the metropolitan region Rotterdam-The Hague has taken the initiative to engage hundreds of regional stakeholders into a collaborative effort to work on an economic strategy. This will enable us to modernize our economic infrastructure, increase our resilience, and create a better future for the people living in our region. Our journey is called the Roadmap Next Economy. It started in November 2015 and was delivered in November 2016.
De haven van Rotterdam is van groot belang voor de economie van de stad, de regio, het land en Europa. De grootste uitdagingen die wij zien in de komende jaren zijn gerelateerd aan de energietransitie en de implicaties van de digitalisering.
Samenwerking kan alleen maar in de regio gestalte krijgen. Zorgaanbieders, technologiebedrijven, onderwijs en lokaal bestuur, die snappen wat er in de eigen context aan het plaatsvinden is. En die ook snappen dat er op een adaptieve manier moet worden samengewerkt om ervoor te zorgen dat we de toekomst in zekere zin naar ons toe kunnen halen. En voorbereid zijn op die snel ontwikkelende samenleving als gevolg van nieuwe technologie, et cetera, et cetera.
The metropolitan region of Rotterdam and The Hague's been working with TIR Consulting over the past year in a joint project to craft an economic vision and development plan to transform this large swath of the Netherlands into a roadmap next economy, a third industrial revolution.
Bon, le pragmatisme néerlandais, ça va vite quand même là.
Ouais,
Hein,
ça va vite.
ça va vite. Hein.
Ce qu'il y a d'intéressant,
It's
c'est que
quite fast.
notre expérience.
Well, we had our experience, the experience in Luxembourg. We had contacts also with Rotterdam, just to explain one another. We all have our own program and vision. Of course, there is a revolution. You have seen that the Dutch do not say the third revolution, they say the next revolution. It's interesting because, you know, there are times when I really wonder whether people do not go too far. Some people say we're not in the third revolution, it's the fourth or the fifth. The problem is not that. It's an ultra-fast revolution in energy, but also involves digital, artificial intelligence, as we said, so in Luxembourg. But we as those countries, and thanks to has been said, we have contacts with Rotterdam and with Luxembourg, and we get influenced by the others. We also have contacts with the European Commission. Several times we went to work with Commissioner Sisescovic for the energy. So we are setting up a network that is practicing things. I think it's something that sometimes is overlooked. Very often in France, we focus on our own heart. Oh, this is Dream 3 in this case, Dream 3. Well, because, oh, sorry, Dream in French is rêve, third revolution. But we are in a positive field. We can dream of a new world, a new economy. So Rêve 3 is Dream 3. The star and the pebbles. So on a program like this, we get to year 5, things are developing, we have projects that are becoming true. What are the stakes to come? First of all, we will have a program for 2018. What is important is that we have developed financial tools. I think that there are other financial tools, but we will strengthen some of them. We have 700 to 800 enterprise projects or corporate projects for all the companies involved. But as far as I am concerned, there are two things which are important. First of all, we work as a network. That is to say, bring people together, but at the service of an economic sector, multi-sector in the network. We have example of this which we can develop, and this is a benefit for all. It's a benefit for economy and for employment. And the second thing is that we are supported by an intra-territorial dimension. We know that in a region like ours, some people are faster than others. And if they don't move fast enough, it's no use going to tell them go faster. No, we have to tell them to look at the neighbors and see what they are doing. So we need territorial dynamism for these territories to show the way. I have referred to a few cities earlier. I think we should have a good experience in the rural world because we have overlooked it. And I think that the landscape, we as those networks, we as demonstrators for these networks, and then communities that are examples, that is within our reach. So that's the roadmap for 2018, develop the network, and then intermingle the territories. It's in vertical and horizontal. And last comment, can we start scoring in the creation of value and jobs? Well, I have no statistical tools to do it. I felt it was important to look at the movements and the results rather than accounting. Very often people say we have generated so many jobs in the region, and when you look at the details, you see the jobs that have been retained, those that have been lost, etc. I prefer to have another. I know that some of our people like statistics. If they wish, they can draw conclusions. You will be on the statistics side, and I will be on a dynamism side.
Thank you, Philippe Vasseur, for this introduction. You can now leave. Thank you very much for your contribution. Now, Philippe is going to leave, and he is going to be replaced by somebody else, a speaker who says he's a scientist, and at the age of 45, he was able to heal.
Et lui, double applaudissement pour Pierre parce
double round of applause for Pierre because
il a déjà tenu la scène
he has
entre 14h et
he has been with us between 2 and 4:30 already. That was a long afternoon for him. So Pierre Giorgini is coming back with us. Thank you for coming to us. You've been recently re-elected rector of or dean of the Catholic University of Lille. You're about to issue and release your fifth book in January, the one who always refers to the inspiration drawn from Revolution 3 and all the different topics which are supported by the World Forum. We all have this particular book and what you have written. Let's hope for hope. Osons l'espérance in French. It's our bedside table book. And you, Mr. Giorgini, with the community of the university, have a very relevant project, which is part of the master plan. Third industrial revolution. Words are important. This was launched 5 years ago now, so how do you envisage the future? How did things unfold? What happened? And when did outputs emerge? What about the pros and cons? First of all, Philippe may not agree with me. I don't like this wording, the third industrial revolution. I just don't like it. The fourth, what about the fourth one? No, just to answer your question. I would like to say this very simply. We're a bit trapped with words. When we say industrial, we think about industries. Industries, when we know what it means in people's minds, it has to do with many things which are not necessarily adapted to what is going on right now. And third industrial revolution, I think we have forgotten Toffler's. Alvin was the most famous one, even if I worked with him. They were talking about the civilization of a third wave. And back in time, they were talking about demassification through robots, through smart or intelligent robots. And in his book, they were talking about demassification and the flattening of structures. The fact that we would move from a pyramid-shaped society which is distributive, as mentioned by Rifkin, but I find cooperative. We could play on words, but they were talking about civilization of the third wave. And I think we are right at a crossroad in terms of civilization. The anthropologist Dunupian has written something which doesn't put you to sleep like my one does. It's called the anthropological metamorphosis. You have to stay awake when you read the book. It is so enthusiastic, so relevant. I think that it shows that there are three transitions: the technico-scientific transition. We need, of course, to develop the fictitious science books, that is to say, a sort of fictitious projection of science. A second transition, which is a social transition, which has to do with changing the cooperation paradigm, this meshing mode, moving from collaboration to co-elaboration. Of course, I used to come from the telecom sector. I worked in that sector before, and the first boss I met says, "You have modified thinking, it's the new doctrine, I love what you do, but what does it mean for you, participative management?" And he said to me, "It's easy, I manage and you participate." And I was really struck by this. I was struck on that. So moving from collaborative society to co-elaborative society is not something which has to do with words. It's a very semantic, it's a very deep transition. And also, this is when the third revolution could have a meaning. We are moving from productive effectiveness, which was a differentiating factor in the neoclassical type of the economy. And now the economics Nobel Prize tells us we're moving to co-elaboration. It changes all the paradigms of the economy. You were talking about a fifth book, l'économie de l'altérité. We are moving from a civilization of reduction. Heidelberg was saying we are moving to the natural resources, the human stocks, like you would have the fish stock or anything, and we are moving to civilizations of collaborative alliance. In technosciences, I've been fortunate to visit a lab at Bombardier in, of course, Canada, and in their labs we see bio-alliance, new technosciences, metism and so forth. Extraordinary things are now being generated. I had enough, and I'm really angry about this. I don't like the people who spend their time criticizing hope. We need to dare hope. Yes. There's no hope without trust. And if I was to write another book, I would love to say, let's dare joy, because we've moved from trust to hope, and to hope we need to switch to joy. We need it. So we need to start developing that particular meshing styled platform in terms of cooperation or co-elaboration. It means what, economically? Once we have finished reducing through machines, what Anna Arendt used to say, the burden of necessity, automation of a secondary, the tertiary is now becoming automated as well as algorithms, cognitive intelligence. We're going to have huge shocks. What about the fourth sector? We need to start from scratch and do something really new. We need to build together the fourth level or the fourth sector. It will be completely different from the secondary and tertiary, because I have something for Philip. 1 + 1 = 3. When you create something, it belongs to you. I'd like to remind you that in the industrial economics, the property remains something important, not in the next phase. So what counts is not the way you can extend yourself, but of course, with this new system, the respect of this integrity, the respect of the matter has to do with this. We'll come back to this with the third industrial revolution. It is a very trendy type of expression. It is a responsible revolution that you're talking about. It is a gate towards this with this new type of economics, with one condition, and here I'd like to come back to your terminology. You need to develop those different collaborative alliances. This is what it's all about. Let's now move to practical matters. You're right at the head of the master plan, which has been transformed. I would guess we need to say something about this. The Catholic University is a district. Quartile, so to say, we need to make sure that this becomes a smart intelligence 460 type of platform. How you develop collaborative alliance with all the major stakeholders. You mentioned your students, the teachers, the inhabitants of the area. When you're set up, please let us know. This is not going to happen flash in a pan. We no longer transform anything from the upper levels. Things have changed. We're no longer in the Brezhnev era. The only way you can lead change is with people, the real people. We need to cast a new light on their perspective that they have, because the world today is becoming loptic. That is to say, you have this contact with the local reality, and just in 2 clicks, in 2 seconds, you're almost aware of the impact of the local on the global. You move from the singular to the universal, and this is something which is supported by this society. So I think that this conscience, this awareness is on its way, even if there are countersigns. These always happen in transformations. It's on its way, and the thing is how we lead it. You cannot direct change from the top, but we'd rather say, what do you want to do together, owing to our shared perception, owing to the global stakes compared to the global ones? How can we build transformation just playing on change stakeholders, saying to the others who are not, of course, becoming obsolete? We need to say those who want to keep need to make a link and just be open to what's going on. And those who are the stakeholders of change, they need to be assisted, they need to be protected, because, of course, the institutional machine with its pyramid will try to annihilate them, to kill them. So we need to help them, and we need to make sure that we lift this up so that people come and see what it's all about. There was Humanicity, this beautiful project, and after that we continued on this, and this took time. We started in 2008, we are in 2017. Now, if we look at this particular question, co-elaboration for me has to do with co-design. We can talk about Lille, World Capital of Design. I think we need to stop thinking that design has to do with blueprints and buildings. No, it has to do with social co-design, innovation, and so forth. Therefore, the first co-design actions have already started. Teresa and myself, even if we were not really interacting already, at the beginning we were 4, only 4. 3 people and myself. Just 4 people. Today, the explorers of transition that have been networked, that's 400 people inside the university. Out of 1,000 employees, they are using networks to interact. They share knowledge very frequently, and the most relevant item, I think you need a certain age to have access. You need to have closed or fully completed your ego therapy. This happened for me at a very late stage. Some people only do it when they die, and only then. But ego therapy is what allows you to say at one point, I'm incredibly happy to see today that I'm no longer at the source of 1% of initiatives. Not even. It has to do with letting go And today, I think, we were talking about this with Philippe, I think we're not so far from this. We're almost about to reach the ambition. We want to be a reference campus for co-design, and we had allocated 10 years, that's 250, of course, million euros, which have been engaged for this. And I hope, and I really hope, that we shall be in a capacity to reach zero carbon emissions by 2021. I think it will be the first time that we will zero carbon in an area by 2021. We're very fortunate. Why? Very lucky. We are going to have a heating system which is going to switch to a non-contamination system with Dalkia, the company that supplies. We have a river nearby, and soon we're going to have 240 square meters of solar panels and so forth. So we're going to be very close to zero carbon emissions. We see that this collaborative society has to do with all the traditional institutions which were based on distributive economy. So without mentioning any names, we are facing legal matters, and the only way forward to reach zero carbon on my campus will be a real demonstrator for students, because we should do a smart grid that could be self-sufficient. This causes legal problems. I understand I'm not a revolutionary against law, because law, of course, has to do with protecting our lives. And so I understand that we could not, of course, let such a revolution start, so that we would end up with economic deadlines that would be out of reach. Today, you haven't got the legal instruments to make sure that your campus, your district can be self-sufficient and self-productive. No, for legal reasons that we can easily say and mention. Disagreement is no conflict. If you let this issue of self-production go and become real, this could challenge major balances on issues of energies. This is not what we want today, because the 50 billion will have to be paid. So how can we demonstrate, how can we experiment to come and pave the way to a new field of experimentation without destabilizing the existing? According to me, it's a transition and therefore not a revolution. Let me just mention something here which is also very keen on us, which has to do with demultiplication. Duplication. You say I need to remain the owner of 1% of the start inspiration. There are 400 stakeholders involved. How can you massify, so to say, the citizen-based commitment, the commitment of your community, change behaviors and act? Let's have a look at the video. That's the story of Sarah. This is the lady who provided us with this video, and she's just telling us about a dedicated approach to accompany and support changes in behaviors.
Changer les comportements pour un mode de vie plus durable. Faire changer les comportements pour adopter un mode de vie.
Let's change behaviors to adopt a better way of living, but it's not that simple. Let's take the example of Sarah. Sarah works and lives in a city. Sarah is fully aware of the protection of the environment. She's fully aware of the fact that it's important to limit greenhouse gases, but she nevertheless continues to use her car rather than riding a bicycle, using public transportation, or carpooling. Awareness campaigns on the protection of the environment were quite effective, so she now understands the stakes, but they're not sufficient to modify her behaviors. So how can we make sure that she leaves her car to resort to other types of transportation? We need to act upon different leverages. First of all, we need to talk to her individually so that she changes our ideas about public transportation, allowing us, for example, to test them for free. Or we should try and convince her that she should use a bicycle and be reimbursed by her employer. She also needs to talk to her neighbors who already do carpooling, just to let her know that it's possible to do without a car to go to work. At the scale of society, different solutions are feasible, possible. For example, Sarah has different apps to find the best transportation means. She needs to be reassured on carpooling thanks to a scoring system on the reliability of drivers. We should ban traffic in cities, or should we reach a pollution peak? Customs of Sarah era may also change with different infrastructures which are put at our disposal. For example, if our employer has a dedicated area to park bicycles, if the public authorities develop cyclist paths or dedicated car parks for carpooling users. Good news is that there are so many things to be done and so many means to mobilize. Succeeding has to do with combining different actions which are held by different stakeholders at different scales. Many stakeholders already do many things, but we need to foster this movement. So how can we help them to choose the best change in terms of behavior? We can draw from the data from different social sciences and so forth. Economic experts tell us how to invest. Psychology can provide a new light on behaviors, emotions, and how they connect with actions. Psychology shows the influence of groups on individuals. Sociology shows us how individual practices are the reflection of our society. Try all those different analysis elements to lead effective actions in our book, Change Behaviors, make sure that social practices may evolve towards more sustainabilities. So different ingredients, psychosociology, sociology itself. You need to first act on individuals, on communities, on structures. It takes a lot of different elements to achieve this. I think it's a bit too scientist-orientated. Could you explain this? Of course, science has a role to play in this. But if you train, or if our young people, allocating them with a master's degree in psychology, psychology, and so forth, we're going to have a problem. They're going to have to keep on studying until they reach 50. This may settle the unemployment problem, but that would be very complex. The issue here at the heart of all this is how we can change the idea of massification, this concept. Once I had to speak in front of different members of parliament at the National Assembly. We should transform the ENA, the National Administration School, into a school which deals with accompanied or supportive administration. It's a real revolution. I've been director in different boards of major companies in France, and I was stimulated by my father. He was an Italian migrant, and I think the model was that we had to become an intensive producer, just like a farmer. A big machine that would produce a lot. But at the end of the day, a good manager is a gardener of initiative. This is a real symbolic shock. It means that you have to leave your suit, to put an apron on, and Wellington boots to do your garden. We need to do away with this particular perspective. We need to trust people, and we need to help them to undertake experiments, and we need to have the means so that they can reflect upon what they're doing in networks, and then we need to connect them. And major managers are binding agents, so to say, people who provide an appetite to people to do some things. They need to be the bridge between people. Of course, I'm not saying that all is fine in my university and so forth, but we try to make sure that what is particular performing for students. We're going to launch a new concept, the School of All Intelligence. We want to make sure that people will acquire education. Yvon Gattaz is almost 90 years old now, and he came to speak to us, and he says, among entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, the entrepreneuring, you see that the desire to become an entrepreneur is declining among young people. They want to be entrepreneuring people, more active people. They wish for this to get a certain level of education. We no longer know whether you need to have a master's degree in law or philosophy. You need a certain level of education to become an entrepreneur and do something in society. Then you need to be willing to do it, and then you need to be supported. You need to be part of a network so that you're connected with the others from other disciplines. Let me take an example very briefly, just a few seconds. I've seen Benoit, is in the room, ask engineers to reflect upon how rooms couldn't be switched off when courses are finished. saving on energy has to do with this. An engineer is going to start putting Dopplers everywhere. It's good news. Dopplers can detect, of course, movements. These are very good sensors. And then as you walk into a corridor, the light is switched on, or if you leave, it's switched off. That was before 45. I was saying to myself, this is great. You've had a good life, haven't you? Yes. And then philosophers, sociologists work on nudges. The fly in the toilet, for example. And we've seen that if we put some systems on, some techniques can start, but we need for this to work with designers, with users. You need to test this. So innovation is among what we call unlikely meetings. Things happen when, of course, people were not expected to meet do meet and do innovate together. So meeting people at random can lead to innovation, to design, and this is a wonderful perspective for the future. Thank you very much. So two main partners, particularly committed, Christelle Heinemann and Bruno Legevin, welcome to you. Welcome to this particular session.
Bienvenue, prenez place. Il y a de la place, hein. Allez-y. Voilà. Deux présidents, l'une est
two presidents, one of Schneider Electric France, the other one of ADEM. And you know that they are really integrated into the thinking process of the World Forum. For many years, they interact on Rev 3. You are a worldwide group, but it's locally that you are working, and ADEM is working on the territory. Just a word of introduction, and then I will introduce our witness, the grand témoin. Can you tell us about Rev 3 in this region, since you are a player? Well, we have been partners for several years, and we see things that are moving forward. In the region of Hauts-de-France is not a single one. We are an overall player in all the countries of the world, and we see that all territories raise the same issues. At the General Electric, we are in the world of cities and the industry, so we see that transformation, energy, and new technologies that make it possible to have new innovations for things that are very positive. We are considered as activists, and in the region we have a lot of projects, but we are still, I would say, constrained by the environment. We have projects, be it on the building of the network. The building is 30% of the worldwide energy consumption. Today, just because of the connected objects and work on behaviors, we reduce consumption to a large extent, and we have a project with Sciences Po in Lille. We have reduced the consumption by 40%, so 30% worldwide, reduced by 40%. It's very specific, it's very clear worldwide, and that's why we have to move forward. Europe is very ahead in the field of energy, but China is moving forward much faster because their challenges are much more critical for the economic development of the country. And we see that all these innovations in the world are starting to develop. And we see things that are now applied. We are still in a situation where we have projects on buildings. We will have also projects on campuses. We as the production of energy, but it's still experimentation, and we have to move forward. Another revolutionary person, Bruno Lechevin. How about you? Well, we were not revolutionary, we were evolutionary, but we knew exactly what we wanted. And we have been operator of the state for the energy transition, and so then when there is a territory of the Hauts-de-France, it's only normal that we are here, and I'm very happy to be here every year at the same dates. We bring our expertise, we bring our data, we bring our knowledge connected with our scenarios, and we also have a role of facilitation. You see it today when Philippe said that it works because there is life, because you have a public player, a private player, you have economic aspects, political aspects, and we also have people who are really willing to do something. And we want to carry on with things that we have more and more projects. And what is really interesting is that, as was said before, now it is going over the borders of the region and the countries. And as the energy transition is now changing, the good practices are being shared. Sharing of experience, this is very important. After listening to you both, we will have a debriefing afterwards. You will have an announcement to put forward to illustrate the logic of network. Thank you, Claude, because you were referred to earlier. You invited our grand témoin today, who is the mayor of a German city, Heidelberg, but he has another cap. He is president of Energy City, an association, a European association of cities in transition. Heidelberg is a city in transition, and 3 weeks ago we learned that you accepted to come here as a witness. So we are very happy to listen to you and your experience in Heidelberg, and also with your expertise, you will tell us what are the main guidelines to, I would say, enlighten the future.
Le docteur Eckhard Würzner, le maire d'Heidelberg et président d'Energy City.
Mayor of Heidelberg and president of Energy City.
Yeah, bonsoir. Good evening, everybody. I will speak in English, but I think you can all follow me. And first of all, I would like to thank that I can give you some ideas about our network, Energy City, about the vision of a mayor, and what you really can change. To follow with the discussion, I must say, at the moment, we wanted to come from projects to a clear roadmap to an implementation process. And that means for us that we should firstly have a vision where we wanted to go. And the vision is not a revolution. The vision is a better life for our kids, for our nations, for the global society. And when you look at this status, you see a big conflict between what is happening globally, what is happening, for example, in Africa, when you see about the climate change and the things which were going on in Africa and which causes refugees coming now to Europe, knocking on our door, changing the whole political system. There is a big need for action, not only because of the local ideas and willingness of citizens. Now there's also a need for action from the global point. And also, when you look at the economic situation in Europe and on the global scale, you notice that more and more countries taking over leading positions which are not based in Europe, which are also not based in the United States. everybody has this wonderful digital tool in his pocket, yeah? I think everybody has something like this. Where it is produced? China. It's designed, the package is from US, still the package. So there's a lot of change, and we have to take care that our leading position is not going in the way that we're getting more and more sleepy because we thought we are big, we are great, we are successful, so where is the enemy? We are noticing that there is a big movement on the international level which is going totally in a different direction. Thinking about the German car industry, we are so great that we forget to move. We're not producing the most advanced electric cars anymore in Germany. I, as a mayor, I ordered the next generation of buses where? In Poland or in China. Because there is no electric bus which I can own at the moment from a German company. And this is a shame. Okay, I got the first one, which were produced because I ordered it already 2 years ago, and I will get it in 1.5 years. But at the moment, I have to close my city with a car ban because of the emission concentration in the downtown area, like Stuttgart or München or France, Paris or whatever. So there is such a strong need of a very fast movement, a revolution or a change in the behavior of the citizens that we really have to bring all our knowledge together, but we need also to move. That's what we try to do on a local level as local leaders and also in new networks. So the idea was, if there is a federal responsibility, a European responsibility, an international responsibility, why is there a need for networking on a local level? And there were no networks 15 years, 20 years ago. Today, we have ADAM, we have Energie, we have several other networks because we feel that our messages are not set into political processes on a national, supranational level. Energie, for example, is a network which was founded nearly 20 years ago, and I'm the president now for more than 10 years. I'm on the local side. Before I was an environmental officer, 5 years deputy mayor. Now I'm 11 years mayor of the city of Heidelberg, a wonderful small town in the southern part of Germany, but we call us what you call a knowledge pearl, so brain should lead our political discussions. And if you're going this way and you use your knowledge, you can achieve quite a lot. With Energie, we bundle up all together this knowledge which we have on a local level and go this way very constant. We are representing more than 1,000 city already in more than 30 countries. So we started in France and in Germany and in Italy. Today we have centers in Poland, in Ukraine. Already we are moving now to Africa because we noticed that we have to share this experience with those partners who have not the possibility to have so much university knowledge on their local level. So give them the advice, give them the knowledge, and you can change a lot. The low energy city, so energy transition is our main focus at the beginning, but we are more and more also taking over the whole range of activities in the field of sustainable movement. But what we wanted to achieve is a higher quality of life on a local level. Give starting awareness campaigns, bundle up all these partners, bring European money together because nobody knows really what the European money is. So we organize the process. We bring the partners together from Lille, from Heidelberg, and from Paris or Montpellier to achieve these solutions. We're providing support. Also, if you think about where can you get the money for your programs, for small and medium enterprise changes. So a lot of awareness is about us. Strengthening local authority capacities to accelerate the energy transition is the main focus, and take over a lot of best practice examples, collect them, have them now in a huge database. This is, for example, the example of Växjö, a city which is already 100% CO2 free. But this is always the result we noticed. They have a strong leadership. They have a strong leadership. They have a mayor or deputy mayor or a city council who's forcing the politics to go in this direction. If this is not the case, you have the big picture from Sarah, from Adem in your mind, in which field you all have to work. That Sarah takes not the car, use the bike or walk. And you have to change a lot of systems that Sarah get the right messages. Otherwise, just the environmentalists are going in this direction. This is too low. So Växjö, for example, wonderful example, going CO2 free. In the Czech Republic, we have partners who implementing geothermal power plants. We have in Portugal cities like Vila Nova de Gaia, who set up these technical advice teams to support small and medium enterprises, also give them financial money from the European level. We have Greater Lyon in France, who has a wonderful campaign, Plan Climate to Grand Lyon. So bring these partners together, start these awareness campaigns on the local level, or Heidelberg, which is one example from a lot of other examples where we move from projects to whole cities. This is, for example, a picture of the new city in Heidelberg, which is a 100% CO2-free city. It has the size of Lille downtown. Lille downtown. All the buildings, not one building, all the buildings have an energy consumption which is using the technical potential. So it uses, instead of 100, maybe oil equivalents, 100 liters oil per square meter and year, they use 3 liters of oil. Now we're not using oil anymore. Of course, we're using long-distance heating networks by building a new power plant served by renewable energies. So we have a 100% CO2-free city. But why? Because we have a leadership. And the city council who decided everybody in this new city has to use this passive house standard for the buildings. They are forced to use the mass transport system because we reduced the parking lots. We expand the bicycle lanes, give them priority and not the cars. We set up decentralized building and education centers. So by doing all this, and the education center is also a center of excellence for renewables and energy saving programs. So the kids in the school, they go home like little ants and teaching their parents what they can do, how they can change their behavior. And by implementing this whole cycle of possibilities, you really can change a lot. But it is a clear vision that in this whole area, everybody should go in this direction, and then you can really achieve a lot. Based on a clear vision of the city, based on a biannual report where we are at the moment, and based on a long-term strategy to become CO2-free in 20 years. But everything what we are doing now should be what we call best practice. That's the reason why the city council decided 15 years ago, every school, every kindergarten gets green energy. Our buildings from the city are a bad best practice example. So what we have done, implementing a strategy plan, we have reduced the energy demand of all municipal buildings by more than 50% in the last 15 years. Of all, not one, all. All buildings are forced to use the tech standard, which we call it, which is much higher than the national standard. And also this urban area would have an energy demand which would be 10 times higher if we just use the national standard. So what we decided was we owned the whole area, it was a huge area, The investment is about, in this project, 3 billion euro. So we invest as a city about 400 million for all this infrastructure, and then selling this area to those who are willing to be a partner, but accepting our Heidelberg standard, not the national standard, because the national standard gives us no regulation to implement so big solar panels, so big building, or so high building standards. So it has a lot to do with not only talking, bringing political policies into action. And if you go so, you really can change quite a lot, really quite a lot. What helps is that if you looking globally, or you looking in Europe, the different structures on the local level, you notice that there is a big difference. For example, in France, who is responsible for energy? Who is responsible for energy in France? Any idea? Everybody heard from EDF? Maybe. No, but in Germany, we have about 700 EDFs owned by cities, like my city. I have my own EDF, energy company. And it's, for me, a cash machine, because I earn 15 million euro a year by selling energy. But I, as the mayor, I'm the head of the board of directors, so it's my energy company. And we decided we just buy, for everybody who is getting energy from us, 100% green energy. Try to become the best price for them and sell it to our consumers. For the city, we go a little bit higher. We buy certified green energy, so that we have also the capacity to build new power plants in this field. But it is a decision by a local structure, so by the city or by the mayor. Same in the traffic field. Who is responsible for traffic in Lille? Anybody an idea? For parking lots, new tram lines, who will build it? Who will order the electric tram? In Heidelberg, it's my company. It's 100% owned by the city. So we decided we'd just buy electric buses. We decided to expand the tram system. It's about a 160 million euro project, which we're implementing at the moment. So if you don't have the capacity on the trams, nobody would leave the car at home, because they can't use the tram line because it's always overcrowded. So you have to expand the tram line system, you have to expand the bicycle lanes, and this means you have to also not control it all. So you can have a private system to run the trams, but the track line must be on the position of a local government, and this is very important if you try to change systems. The same with financing small and medium enterprises. Where is the money coming from when a company makes a new investment? Any idea? In France, in Italy. Where's the money coming from? From mostly a national, supranational bank. They have no big interest in giving you a credit if you have not a rentability of more than 4, 5, 6%. In Germany, we have more than 1,000 local banks. Also my city. Who is the head of the local bank? The mayor. So we give about 70% of all the credits to small and medium enterprises through our local bank system. What I just want to give you as a picture is, if you have on the local level, or local and regional level, the responsibility for the main action fields, energy, traffic, money, you can change very quickly a whole system. If you don't have this, You just have discussions on a side boat, I always say. So the super tanker is going the same direction, but you have a small rescue boat where some people are rowing like crazy, starting awareness campaigns, which are very important. But if these awareness campaigns are not implemented into a policy, a local policy or regional policy or federal policy, they stick in the queue and the impulses are not there. And what we learned in Heidelberg is that we have now also created a huge network of corporations with small and medium enterprises. So we give advice, for example, for a bakery, what they can do with the heat. We give advice to car companies. We give advice to any other company. So we have more than 100 companies which are working very close together with the community. We give them free advice what they can do to change their business into a more sustainable business. And at the beginning, they were very, should we work together with the city? Today, they say, wow, we save money, and the employees love it. And now we have a job ticket for our employees. We have bicycle parking lots at the company. And we save money because the city gives us advice by an energy company or something else, because we, at the moment, just looking on the production line and not by the production hall. So the building where the production line is in and all these structures. So also the industry and economic partner notice that there is a benefit for them. And if this benefit is there, that's what we learned over all these years, then you can change a lot. So give the benefit to Lara, who wants to go downtown, give her a job ticket, but raise the price for parking lots. And the effect is there. Implementing new tram lines, bringing in more bicycle lanes, and reduce the car lanes, and the positive effect for those who are using it is there. And if you do so, you notice that there is a big change in a lot of systems, and I think this is the biggest message, what I wanted to give to you. That's what a lot of cities do, and that's what we exchange, how to implement these plans. At the moment, we have about 6,000 cities who are working together with us, implementing this called Sustainable Energy Action Plans with all these methods in Europe, and I think there we can change a lot in a cooperation with the federal governments, but not depending on the federal governments. So do what our citizens are forcing us to do and willing to see from the local government. So many thanks.
Thank you.
For you.
Merci. Venez.
Thank you very much for your contribution to this session. Any reaction you may have, one or the other. Would you like to say something? And then I shall give the floor to the audience so that they can interact. It's an invitation that I am making in direction of the audience. This is great. It's as if everything was super simple. It is crystal clear, very simple. We also are under the impression that a mayor who must be a real Democrat controls everything. Everything is under control, things are moving on, undergoing, and he has settled the issue which was in the discussion earlier on the right to experiment, legal obstacles on the way to experimentation. I would like to touch upon this. I did say a few words about that last year. Is the legal framework really in line with today's world? Well, it seems that it's sometimes a bit obsolete. We are in this transition period, and the legal framework has to evolve. It needs to anticipate tomorrow's world. And if it's not ready for tomorrow's world, the only solution we have is the right to experiment. This is the only way forward. I think this has to do with leadership and being a visionary. We should do the same in many territories in France. Why not? We're convinced that it works, and it's good to see when everything is fully aligned. And when you can align vision with leadership, it works. Whatever the level, it is working. And this is good news for us. I just want to remind you that there's a hashtag here indicated on the stage. Roma is in charge of doing everything on the social networks. Of course, Roma, you'll let us know later on about the buzz generated by this session. Now over to the audience for questions and answers. This is our Q&A session starting now. I hope that I'm going to be more successful with Heidelberg now and the testimony about Heidelberg. Yes, I think somebody, Philippe Vasseur, would like to ask a question, but let's give the floor to somebody else. Philippe, I'm sure you can wait. Yes, my question is, of course, for the mayor of the city of Heidelberg in Germany. If I understood you well, you're launching an experimentation with this new eco area for about 1,200 inhabitants. But do you think that in the long run, if you're re-elected, you will pursue this new impulse, but this time for the whole city?
Sorry, my interpretation is a little bit going down with the batteries. So what your question was is that...
Non, c'est un ami. Il en avait un, en fait. Ouais. Ah, il ne fonctionnait pas. D'accord. OK. Can you repeat?
Can you please repeat your question?
Oui, donc,
yes, my question is the following. Now, when it comes to this eco-district of 5,000 inhabitants, is it just a test that you're launching, a sort of trial run or trial period that you wish to, of course, transpose to the whole of the city? Are you going to expand this if, of course, you're re-elected mayor of Heidelberg? How do you want to really transpose this to your entire city of Heidelberg?
Yeah, this was just an example of a new developing area. So all the knowledge which we have is implemented in this new developing area. The whole city, which is already built, of course, is under the main focus. For example, we have an own retrofitting funding program for old buildings, for the whole city, which is about €5 per capita we spend as an incentive, every year for our own city-based financial system for a higher energy efficiency retrofitting for old buildings. Or the €160 million project for the new tram lines for the whole city. The traffic ban downtown area is in the historical part of the city and the suburbs, not in a new developing zone. So you're absolutely right. This knowledge should be used everywhere, and it is used everywhere, but in this compact city, we really have integrated everything. This is not existing in the whole city itself till now.
Ouais, ça va vite. Une autre intervention?
Another question maybe from the audience. Are you feeling okay? No, no reaction?
Vous, monsieur, vous en pensez quoi de tout ça?
What do you think about this, sir? What do you think? Yes, he is now going to ask a question. I think that this is a very good experience, and we would like this type of initiative being developed at the scale of our territories in France or cities. This is very concrete. We would like to make sure that there can be a sharing of this will, this concrete will to make things happen, to have this energy transition being developed with a very strong political will. And I think today's political world has a role to play, also citizens, but elected members as well, when it comes to taking ownership of this local will. It is extremely important. I'm very happy to hear about this experience. I want to go to Germany now that I've heard this. It's very interesting. We've got the same thing at home, don't we? Allez bien.
Maybe a message which is very interesting. You have a situation also in Germany which is not equal. You have cities which are growing, and you have cities which are declining from their population. And if you're looking in detail, you notice that those cities are growing, also economically, which are trying to implement this more sustainable way of living and using the knowledge we have. For example, in the last 10 years, Heidelberg, since the last 10 years, I would say we have now 20,000 new employees more than 10 years ago. And we have an unemployment rate under 6%. So it is very low from the national level, and you have a tremendous increase of business which is looking for places where they can go with their high potential developers, because they need this brain and they need the surrounding structures which gives them impulses where they see that their ideas are brought into practice.
Nous entrons dans la dernière demi-heure de cette rencontre pour la première partie. Après, la fête continue de l'autre côté.
Of course, the celebration is undergoing next door. I will let you know afterwards how this is going to be organized. But let me tell you about two things before we close this session. Just remind about this logics of different economic sectors. Let's remember the roadmap of the future. We need to strengthen the different domains, the different disciplines, and for one of them, which is going to be developed and which is going to be strengthened in this area, I have a particular announcement to make, and this is a scoop really for the World Forum 2017. Of course, all major announcements are very solemn, so I'm going to ask you to, of course, go to the lectern, Mr. Echevin, and I would like President Vasseur to come and join us. Please come and join us. President Philippe Vasseur. As this was just mentioned, I am delighted to make a beautiful announcement, I think, the one of the awarding of a future techno center of mechanization in the Hauts-de-France area. This is the first time that this is happening in France. I would like, first of all, to thank Xavier Bertrand, the president of the region Hauts-de-France, and Philippe Vasseur, who has honored me to chair the jury for the awarding of this prize. We met, of course, this morning about this technical center. Most of the jury members, of course, have appraised with great care this award, and the region of Hauts-de-France and all the biogas stakeholders in regions have set for ourselves an ambitious goal to be the first region in Europe for the production of biomethane injected in the grid. The ADEME, of course, the National Environmental Agency on Energies, is really involved. Biomethanization is a real challenge for the future for energy transition. The northern area of France has, of course, potential labs ready, and with seaside injection, it's one of the regions which is a leader in this particular emerging sector. And perspectives for the future in terms of creation of activity, in terms of jobs, we were mentioning this earlier on, are huge. In 2050, even if it's for tomorrow, let's say that the regional goals in terms of methanizations would allow us to multiply by 16 the number of jobs in that particular sector in the Hauts-de-France region. We would move from 300 to 5,000 jobs by 2050. It's worth thinking about it. It's worth making efforts in that direction. The creation of a techno center at the regional level constitutes, as you will have gathered, a major challenge to develop this particular sector, which is already undergoing through a cluster, through a pole of excellence, and of course will give benefit to the territory. Combining an R&D platform, a production plant, and a training center, this techno center will allow, in a single location, to promote this sector, to support project developers, and to test innovation and train people to work positions in the field of methanization. This techno center will be a real showcase of regional know-how in methanization and biomethane injection. It's a real opportunity for local companies to position themselves on emerging markets. I would like to thank elected members, all the politicians of the 5 inter-communities, people who filed in and responded to this application with a lot of good work. And since, of course, we are awarding a prize, 4 people might be disappointed. Not at all, because it's the whole region, all the applicants who will win from this, because the whole region is going to draw from this and draw from the implementation of this technocenter. The success of this technocenter will have to do with more networking, and I think it's important to emphasize this. This is really part of Revolution 3, and of course, stakeholders have started networking through, of course, the application to be awarded the prize with their assets, specificities, and also through the R&D and training dimension in direct link with the economic stakeholders of this sector. We're not in a territorial competition, not at all. We just want to make sure that this sector will prove to be beneficial for the future at the service of the region. The strength of this collective action is the source of success, because competition comes from the external world. There's no internal competition. This is the objective of Revolution 3, the spirit of Revolution 3. I would like to say that the economic model, which is very innovative for this technocenter, which is totally self-financed, is something that can be duplicated in other regions of France. With no further ado, I would like now to announce that the territory that will host the technocenter is the urban community of Arras in the Pas-de-Calais department. We have no doubt that we can rely on its capacity to transform this experiment while developing the relevant synergies. You've understood that this was crucial to the system. This is the key to success. So congratulations to the urban community of Arras. Congratulations to the urban community, which has now a year to finalize the project and make this technocenter a concrete action with the support of the region and all the stakeholders of the field of biomethanization. It's a real regional impulse which is being strengthened today. Revolution 3 is no longer a dream, but is becoming now a reality, and this is good. So congratulations. Thank you, President, for this announcement tonight. Philippe Vasseur. Just a comment, but just before this, maybe you may not know about this in the audience, but we have on the first row the president of the urban community of Arras. I can feel that he's very moved by these announcements. 2 reflections I would like to share with you. First thought, it's always difficult when you wish to implement such an exceptional center. There are many candidates to host such a tool, such a nice piece of equipment, and this is really very difficult. It's difficult to shortlist the candidates. It's difficult to appoint one territory. We make sure that this technocenter is going to be working with the other territories. All the territories had good projects, but we had to choose one. As soon as you have to take such a decision, you're going to please one and disappoint the others. I'm sorry about this, but I'm sure that all of you will think that all projects were good. But anyway, I'm sure the winner thinks he was the best, so no problem. So right at the start, we said, how are we going to do this? We're going to make sure that there won't be any political interference when it comes to the choice. This is why we did constitute a specific jury members are fully independent. None of them represented the regional council or else. And we've asked Bruno Echevin, the national president of the ADEME, to chair the jury. I think we had to mention this. Whatever the comments, it's important. They were all fully independent. I would like to thank Philippe Rabneau, the president of the Urban Community of Arras, for the excellence of his dossier or application. I know about all the details, and I would like to wish him success to make sure this technocenter can work at the scale of the region and not only at the scale of his territory. Second thought, thought, second reflection, and it will be very brief. We have a typical example of what can be achievable and what we want to do through Revolution 3. Revolution 3 is, of course, important. I would like to mention this to my friend Pierre. An industry has to be understood in the sense of the term. Industry in Latin means activity. We don't want to go back to the secondary sector practice. But REV 3, Revolution number 3, is an initiative which can only work if and only if there is a collective will from the top, from all the stakeholders to make it happen. And if we have something which starts from the field, it's no longer a top-down approach which is required, but a bottom-up approach. And if we hadn't had some very willing stakeholders to make it happen, if we hadn't had Chopin, if we didn't have GRDF, if we hadn't had the opportunity to constitute this informal of the CORBI, the regional coordination for injected biomethane, it wouldn't have worked. It was no use creating a commission with 3 working groups and 6 vice presidents. It was something very informal, very simple. Those people supported the project. Of course, they were assisted. The Techno Center was their idea. We made sure that this was possible. Other things will happen by the end of the year under their initiative. And I think this is a good example. As soon as you have stakeholders who are working on the field, then it will work. The methane sector is the first example, spectacular example of what we do under Revolution 3. There'll be others next week, and I hope, Bruno, that you will always hope to support us in those initiatives so that we can select the different contestants. Well, we'll have a look with great attention what's going on when it comes to this particular ambition on injected biomethane. It's just a demonstration of what you wish to do. In the Hauts-de-France region, in this region, we're going to have a techno center that will do R&D activities. It will be the showcase of methanization. This is going to go beyond the region. Of course, this is the ambition. We will, of course, you'll be going to Arras. You'll cover long distances to go to Arras. Thank you to Xavier Bertrand, president of the region, Hauts-de-France, who was willing to listen to us. And he says, yes, go for it. It's a good idea. I like this collective approach. I really like it. We've all played a role in this. It has to do with collective intelligence. Yes. Together, we're much smarter. Thank you very much. It's a success. Let me clarify something, says Mr. Vassar. Of course, some people may smile, especially our German friend. Germany is a pioneer, really advanced in the field of biomethanization, biomethane. Sometimes I'm being asked, how come was France the first producer of milk? How we, of course, now, we have competitors in Germany. They sell milk at a cheaper price because they have farms which are much larger. And also, second thing is because the German farmers have adopted the methanization system so that farms are much more resilient in terms of finance. So we're going to try and draw some inspiration from the German example. And we hope that, of course, competition will remain very, of course, courteous with Germany. Of course, it's an ex-minister of agriculture who is talking to a German friend. Now, let's conclude with a much more common issue. On this sector of methanization, the ADEME has been facilitating the debate to move to action. And the first benchmarking exercise were carried out in Germany. First question to Bruno Legevin. You've told us that your job has to do with supporting those dynamics on the territories in terms of accelerator for this region, which launched Revolution 3. What are you suggesting? What are you going to be doing tomorrow to support the industrial sector or companies? We are being supportive. It's part of our role, part of our remit, while providing our contribution, prospective reflections that we also do at the national level, especially with 2030, 2050 scenarios, which have inspired the Revolution 3, of course, dynamics, even if it's a regional one. We have updated all those different scenarios, and tomorrow morning we shall will present them, the updating of the different scenarios, which were becoming a bit obsolete, and normally you should hear about them. More recently, we have led with the region and the Regional Chamber of Commerce, the state departments, the regeneration cells of the ministries. We wanted to work in line with PKD efforts. And for me, Revolution 3 is a great opportunity to build tomorrow's larger and greater region. It has to be something which is federative. We need to do something if we want to build a great region. It's not only a legal issue, it goes well beyond the legal framework. So we have carried out additional studies to extend the PKD initiative. And we can see that through the updating and through the revalorization of the different scenarios, that these surveys may allow us, and this is important, to better quantify the job opportunities generated by the TRI. And I've heard what you were saying earlier on. We're no statistics experts, but we know that the emergence of new sectors will have a tremendous impact on jobs and job creation. The president of the region, Hauts-de-France, is particularly keen on this. We know well that in terms of jobs, the French Observatory of Economic Circumstances and Situation has said that energy transition scenarios will provide, of course, 3 or 4 points, additional points of GDPs. Of course, they have jobs which are being created, others that disappear. What counts is net jobs. So here we're talking about net jobs, gains. It means that for this we need to support job transfers, job destructions, professional transitions, and we need to be very careful to emerging jobs. New sectors will have to go in line with new jobs, and we'll need to keep a close eye on more vulnerable jobs. I know that the stakeholders of the regions are very sensitive to this, as I was saying, and we have a good illustration of this through the Techno Center based in Arras, specialized in mechanization that is about to be settled in Arras. We have an objective by 2050 of 800 installations with a perspective of creating 5,000 jobs. And your surveys do show that in this, in northern France, in the Hauts-de-France, those different sectors which have been launched by Revolution 3, Rev 3, will strike the right balance between job destructions and creation of new jobs. I think this is a real important factor. Earlier on, we had a slight conflict on the notion of industry. I'm convinced myself that energy transition, ecological transition has to do with the emergence of a new model, but also it is the emergence of the reindustrialization, the recreation of economics, recreation of jobs, and relocation with sustainable jobs. It's not just a world that looks nice for ecologists. For me, energy transition, ecological transition has to do with creation of a new activity, an activity, of course, with a much more sustainable growth, which is going to create value and reindustrialization. And this is what should drive everybody, especially, the fact that we dare to hope and we need to dare to be joyful. Yes, it will generate hope and joy and skills, new jobs, new competences. And now turning to the lady, you've told us about different issues on which you are working, Rhizome, AFTRI. You work also at the Catholic University on the political science building. This is a very invasive initiative. You are a world group. What do you expect now? What do you envisage? What could be what does it exist in the world that could be valid at the local level? We are a global stakeholder. The technologies that we develop, for which we innovate every day, are aimed to be global. This is the role of an industrialist. We want to make sure that we can contribute with the best strategies and techniques. Our R&D departments are based in Grenoble, in France, based on energy. Our technologies are, of course, developed with major networks in the US, in Asia, but it is this articulation, this combination between global and local which works. We have a supply chain which is global, but it is the articulation, the combination with the local scale, which is going to provide the final benefit. And this is what I was saying earlier on. Electricians today, when you work in Africa on projects to give access to people to electricity, we want to train electricians, because for technologies to be deployed, we need to train people to new jobs. And I think it's important that among all the projects that we have in this region, northern France, we're talking about campuses, university districts in which we're going to train the youngest generations to behave differently. We also train people in schools to how to better manage energy. New jobs are going to be profiled, and it goes beyond Schneider Electric. Our partners are going to develop new jobs because our technologies will only be used if we have local partners which find the means to do business and develop their economic activities thanks to our technologies. So all the projects we develop are used as academies, as schools to find the right businesses. I've already met some partners today here in Lille. There's a lot of innovation. And here we're working in this territory, and beyond energy, we're also major industrial stakeholders, 40 plants in France in which we invest to implement our technologies, and our head office is a real showcase on energy management. Our plants need to be also windows, showcases to show what we can do in other locations. That would be a proper demonstration. And then, of course, we work with customers. It has to do with this combination between our global strength, but the fact that we are embedded also at the local level. You're right, Philippe Zeffer. This is something big that we're talking about. The news today at the World Forum is that we need to move from theory to practice. We are far more structuring. We insist on job creations, competencies, skills, impact on the territory, and also we've mentioned about how this needs to be facilitated at the territorial level, facilitators. That's important. In 2 words, because the mayor of Heidelberg has sent us a few proposals, a few pieces of advice in the light of his experience. What are the success factors, conditions, the prerequisites to make sure that this can be accelerated, this type of dynamics can be fast-tracked? Well, this type of dynamics is remarkable under Revolution 3. This was a tremendously important initiative. Elected members, politicians have decided to be willing to invent a future. A lot has been said already. I would like just to add that it's not only a dream of people, of senior executives from the Hauts-de-France. There are other things going on, and the testimony of our friend from Heidelberg has shown that there are things happening elsewhere. I would like to say that the choice you've made, even if it's not always simple, even if nothing is ideal, you have tried to draw from collective intelligence at the benefit of everybody. You need to work in networks, and you do not need to be in competition at the local level. Rev 3 is something which belongs to everybody. You should not work in silos. It's not your property. It belongs to everybody, and we need to share it. As long as we have this positive spirit, it will make sense, and we'll make it. So congratulations. Mrs. Eiderman from the Schneider Group, would you like to say something? You're happy. He's happy. We can see that as far as those issues are concerned, we are convinced that seeing and touching means convincing. We have a lot of projects, and it's from then on that I can say that I have no example of partners, customers, politicians, or associations who came to visit a location, a plant in which we saw that things happen. They can touch it, they can see it. It's obvious. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're talking about something which can be happening. And then it's a question of leadership. Each time people see concrete things, they say, why couldn't we do it? I think demonstrating that it works is the best way forward. Seeing and touching means convincing. I love this. I love this. Mr. Vassar, I would like to remember touching and seeing that has to do with convincing. It's only while demonstrating something that you can convince people. Rev belongs to everybody and not to just a few people. Yes, yes. Just before we close, let me borrow your microphone. Robin has been working for us, has been checking out what was going on the social networks. What happened? What about the buzz? What about the comments which were made? What about contributions made by people on the social networks? The audience and what we had yesterday shows that the trend is only growing. The trend has been doubled. More than an additional 50% of people who reacted on the social networks on the announcement of the Techno Center to be based in Arras was, of course, commented by many people. A lot of buzz around this announcement. The Techno Center to be implemented in Arras. You can't see anything. I'm looking at his laptop, but the screen is not being displayed to everyone. I was smiling. Some community managers are particularly effective in the different territories. We can also say that Bicorp is interested. Lots of people are still discussing about everything we've mentioned. Since we're talking about B Corp, let's make a small present. Let's offer this present to the speakers. This is just a little present from B Corp, or Bicorp if you want. This is a present for you. Mr. Mayor, the mayor of Heidelberg is about to leave. He came just for us, just to meet us. Thank you to him for his contribution. Now, just a last word with you. You have the floor. You have the floor. Yes, we give the floor to the mayor of Heidelberg. Allez, c'est moi qui aurai le dernier mot.
It's a great experience and it makes fun if you empower the local and regional level and show that it is a huge market which is coming up, because the market is decentralized and local or regional. It's not national. And this gives a lot of people, also in our countries, hope that they have a better future. I think this is a big message from this transaction, and I hope this hope will also lead to the necessary political discussions and solutions then.
Merci beaucoup, merci. Et donc, c'est le troisième message qu'on retiendra de cette...
The last message that we will draw from this first part of this session. I'm going to give you some instructions. We're now about to go to the Chamber of Commerce. Philippe, you have the floor. I just would like to say that the services of the community of Arras work well. They've just swamped the social networks with congratulations message. I would like to thank our top-level speakers who did contribute to this session, which was particularly important for us because this has to do with Rev 3 and the success of Rev 3. It has to do with synergies. I'm now waiting for you at the Chamber of Commerce. We will stay together this evening. We'll be doing networking, as we say in French, which is English anyway. We'll be networking, and there's something to drink. There's beer, there's food, and regional beer on top of it. So come and join us at the Chamber of Commerce. At the entrance of the Chamber of Commerce, you'll be distributed a document, a paper with possibility to set 3 appointments of 20 minutes each so that you can get to know some projects which are being developed in the territory to exchange with different stakeholders every 20 minutes. Of course, we will rotate so that everybody has a chance to discover projects. And as President Vassar was saying, there's food, drinks. It has to do with sharing our experiments. Thank you, Rémi Rocher. I'm the CEO of Showmaker and the general manager of his parent company, Airflux. We are very happy to be part of this project, Revolution 3. I just would like to underline and stress something and pick on something which was just mentioned. That is necessary that the local and regional scales are empowered. In terms of recruitment, we're desperately looking to recruit 90 people in the field of design offices, electricity, maintenance technicians, and we can't find those 90 people. So this is the conclusion of a total failure in the educational world. The education is very decentralized, and this should be modified by regional initiatives because the regions know what they need. So clusters like your Techno Center will take into account the needs of the industry for job creations and employment. Thank you for your attention. Let's meet at the Chamber of Commerce, 750 meters away from this theater. Thank you to the speakers.